Hi! So in the recent live stream I mentioned that I was trying out in-ear monitors for use during live streams in the studio or for on stage with my band. And I also mentioned that I hadn't actually found any in-ear monitors that I liked yet. So I invited in-ear monitor manufacturers to get in touch so that maybe I could try their products and review them on my channel. Well, lo and behold, a company called SIMGOT got in touch with me and asked me if I wanted to try out their relatively new EM6L in-ear monitors. So, let's go! Now bear with me for a little context here before I start talking about the SIMGOT in-ear monitors, because I have to admit I'm relatively new to in-ear monitoring. And there are basically two reasons that I'm looking at in-ear monitors at the moment. One is that my band The Wash has been talking about moving to an in-ear monitoring system on stage for quite a while now. And that's due to the fact that our experience with monitors on stage, basically the typical wedges that you have on the stage, is quite, let me say, varied. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's reasonable, and a lot of times it's really a compromise and you just live with the situation that you get into. And that's especially true if there's not a lot of time for setup, sound check, and getting the monitor mixes really tuned to what we need. Now, when you're not a musician, you may not realize that the sound that you hear when you go to a gig, go see a band play, that's the sound that's mixed for the audience, is totally different from the sound that the band actually hears on stage. I'm a guitar player with an amp on stage, so I usually get a lot of sound from my amp. And apart from that, I'm lucky if I have a separate monitor in front of me, which gives me the sound of the other instruments, the vocals, the acoustic guitar, etc. Now, at the same time, there's our drummer on stage who has acoustic drums, so they just sound pretty loud. And that means that the monitors on stage usually have to be turned up pretty loud as well in order to hear them together with the drums. So on stage, everything is pretty much so loud for us that we also wear earplugs in order to make sure that we don't damage our hearing. Now, with all of that going on, it's usually quite hard to get a decent sound on stage. Especially if you also move around on stage, because when you move to a different location on stage, I'm no longer in front of my guitar amp, for example, so I have to rely on how loud the guitar is in the monitor of the bass player or of the singer, for example. And they may have me set at such a volume that I can hardly hear myself. So when you move around on stage as a musician, the sound constantly changes. Now with these in-ear monitors, the idea is that the sound is much more consistent, because you basically can have your own monitor mix in your in-ears, and you can move around on stage and it stays the same wherever you go. Now, what I noticed for me, what's important for these in-ears on stage is that they isolate well from all the sounds that are around you anyway, like the acoustic drums, my guitar amp, which is still blaring away to get some feedback in certain moments, the sound of the PA, which you can hear as well. So it's important that these in-ear monitors really dampen those external sounds, so that you can really listen to the mix in your in-ears and that you don't have to turn it up too loud, because otherwise you damage your ears again. On the other hand, sound quality, like hearing the very low end of the bass or hearing nice crisp highs or having a very flat frequency spectrum on stage, I noticed for me that's not important at all, because all those fine and subtle nuances just totally disappear with whatever's going around you anyway. And even if the isolation is good, you still get a lot of bleed, so you don't even hear the sound quality. That's my experience so far anyway. Now, the second reason for me to try out in-ear monitors is that I also want to use them when I do live streams on this channel. Now, in my recorded videos, you see me just use these monitors, which I have over here, because whenever I play music, I just make sure that I don't speak in this microphone, so I can basically just mute it when I edit the video. However, I cannot really do that on a live stream. I would have to mute this microphone with a button every time I play music through these speakers, and that gets really confusing, so I would like to use in-ear monitors so that the sound doesn't bleed into this microphone and I can just leave it open during the live stream. Now, for that use, however, in-ears in the studio on live streams, to me the sound quality of the in-ears is really important. Flat frequency response, because I basically want to be able to do mixes, listen to what I'm doing and talk to you about what I'm doing. And for that I need to be able to hear properly what I'm doing. So sound isolation, damping everything that happens around me is not so important, because those sounds are not really loud, but sound quality is really important in that case. So to summarize, for on-stage use, sound isolation is most important to me. Whereas for live streams, I want pristine sound quality, flat frequency response, basically the ability to mix on these in-ears. Now I understand to have both of that is probably not easy, and so far my experience with two different in-ear monitoring systems has not been all that favorable. The first set I bought are these. These are the Mi Professional M6 Pro They're pretty cheap. I think I bought them for somewhere between 60 and 70 euros over here. And I bought them because they were recommended by Adam Neely in one of his videos about in-ear monitoring that he does with his band. But to me, the sound quality is not great. It's a single driver in-ear monitor, so it tries to produce all the frequencies in the mix. And it doesn't sound like it's able to do that. Sound isolation, so dampening for use on stage, is not great. It does come with some of these moldable ear tips. So you push them together, then you put them in your ear, and then they expand. So they are supposed to fill up, be really tight in your ear, but it doesn't really work on my ears that way. So I am currently using these on rehearsals with our in-ear monitoring system, but it's not great. Now another set that I tried are much more expensive. And those are the Audio-Technica ATH E70. They're 344 euros at Thomann at the moment. And the advantage is that they are three-way, so they have actually three drivers. One for the bass, one for the mid, and one for the high frequencies. What I did really like about them was the cable that they came with. They came with a very nice and sturdy cable. Whereas the ones from the M6 Pro, if I move it a bit, it makes a noise. So it definitely feels much cheaper. However, for these Audio-Technica in-ears, I have to say, they only sounded marginally better than the M6 Pros. Maybe it was also caused by the fact that they didn't stay in my ears very well either. Apparently they have to be pretty tight in your ear to get the best sound as well. And because they didn't stay very well in my ears, the sound isolation was also not very good. So I returned them because I really expected more for the price. Now before I move on to the SIMGOT in-ear monitors, if you like these kinds of videos, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the little bell icon so you know when I publish another video. And you can also support the channel by buying anything through the affiliate links in the description to one of these stores. In case you're shopping for audio gear or anything else that you can get in those stores, click one of those links and I will get a small commission on whatever you purchase without any additional cost to you. Now let's have a look at the SIMGOT EM6L in-ear monitors. And that immediately starts with a disclaimer because SIMGOT did send me these in-ear monitors for free to try them out on my channel. However, they have not seen this video before I released it. And what I'm going to say about these in-ear monitors is really my opinion and how I experienced using them in both contexts that I just described. So SIMGOT is a Chinese brand that has been on the market for quite a few years already. And they've also made quite a few different in-ear monitors already. So experience is good, right? Well, the in-ear monitors came in a very nice and shiny black box with some gold and orange logo on there. All looks very good. Over here they retail for around 100 euros, so probably also around $100 in the US. So they're slightly more expensive than the M6 Pro that I tried, but they're definitely way less expensive than the Audio-Technica in-ear monitors. Now if you look at what's in the package, it's the in-ear monitors basically. You have three different size of ear tips, which are just the silicone ones, so it's not the ones that are molded and that you can push together and then expand again in your ear. There's a very nice cable in the box, there's a little carrying case and a little manual which is not in this overview. Now this is what it looks like when it's all assembled and how it fits into the carrying case. And I have to say that the quality of how it looks and feels is really good. It's really much better than the M6 Pro. And to me it's comparable to the Audio-Technica ones. Maybe the cable of that one was, well, maybe 10% better. It was a straight cable, not a braided one like this one. But this is also a really nice cable with a very sturdy plug at the end. And the way you connect the cable to the in-ear monitors also feels really sturdy. Now as for what's in the in-ear monitors, this is a little fold out of the various components in one in-ear monitor. And there's basically one dynamic driver for the bass and low mids. And there are two sets of balanced armature drivers for the mid-highs and the high frequencies. And if you look at this see-through picture of one in-ear monitor, you can see that there's actually three separate canals for the various frequencies that are produced by this system. Now I tried these in-ear monitors of course in both situations that I described in the beginning of this video. So in the studio where sound quality is important, and on stage, well, in the rehearsal space where sound isolation is more important to me. And what did I think of them? Well, first of all, like I already said, build quality is really excellent. They really look and feel much more expensive than they are, and they're way better in build quality than the M6 Pro ones. However, the problem that I had was very similar to what I had with the other in-ear monitors, and that is that they didn't fit very snugly in my ears. They came with 3 different ear tips, from smaller to pretty large, but whichever one I put on them, they just would not stay properly in my ear. And the consequences of that is that the sound is not very good. You basically lose almost all of the low end. And of course, sound isolation for on stage was also not very good. I heard everything around me much too loud, so I couldn't properly hear the in-ear monitor mix that was sent to these in-ears. Now, I could hear the potential of them if I just pushed them a bit with my fingers into my ear and held them there snugly, because then I could really start to hear low end, mids, highs. But if I held them like that, the sound quality was really better than any of the other 2 in-ear monitors that I tried. And I'm saying that because the fact that they didn't stay in my ears doesn't of course mean that they also will not stay properly in your ears. Now, I do realize that I've had the same problems with all 3 in-ears that I've tried so far. They just wouldn't stay properly in my ears. So maybe it's just the shape of my ear canals that are the culprit here. And I'm not representative for many of you for which these may work quite well. So maybe at some point I will have to go for the custom molded earplugs, where they basically measure the inside of your ear and then make custom in-ear monitors for you that fit in your ear perfectly, instead of the generic ones which I've tried so far. So if you have any experience with in-ears or have some tips for me, or maybe after hearing all of this you think, well, you should go this way, please tell me in the comments, because I really need a solution, preferably one solution for both situations. But if that's not possible, maybe just tell me about solutions that work really well for you in the studio, for live streams for example, or other solutions that work really well for you on stage. Or if you're a manufacturer of in-ear monitors, I'm also still interested in trying out your in-ear monitors if you think you have the ones for me. So in that case, you can write a Facebook message or an Instagram message to me, and I'm very interested to hear from you. Now, if you really like these kinds of videos about closer looks of hardware that's usable in the studio, then you also may like this playlist, which contains a lot of videos about the gear that I use in the studio with lots of tests. So have a look at that, enjoy, and see you soon.